The latest move by BlackRock and Larry Fink might show that they have uncovered potentially the biggest paper Bitcoin attack of the year. In fact, that could ever fully exist. Now, why am I saying this? And of course, that is linked to Coinbase because Coinbase has had the rumors that Bitcoin has been issued at a paper rate opposed to issuing the true actual Bitcoin. Of course, we're talking about Larry Fink and the relationship to Coinbase, but they have now expanded their custody past Coinbase. So we're going to talk about the significance of the expanding expanding custody beyond Coinbase, as well as how Coinbase could be issuing paper Bitcoin further on in this video. But first, let's get back to BlackRock now revealing that they are diversifying and safeguarding a portion of their Bitcoin, $45 billion worth, to Anchorage Digital, citing that this move is ongoing risk management with all of this. Now, why are they doing this? Of course, BlackRock and big money managers, part of their job, a majority of their job, in fact, is to mitigate risk and make sure that their clients are not dealing with a lot of this said risk when it comes to Bitcoin. But why are they moving away from Coinbase? There's a lot of different theories out there. I mean, one that's been floating around for quite some time is the fact that Coinbase might be issuing paper Bitcoin. And I've talked about this on my channel at length, at nauseum. And a lot of people was saying, okay, this is a lot of speculation. But what we've seen in the past when it comes to Bitcoin and the crypto market to a lesser extent is we've seen when there's smoke, there's fire, right? Everybody was saying a few years ago, oh, don't worry about BlockFi. You know, we had Pop doing the rocket ship. Everything's taken off. Don't worry about Celsius. These guys are okay, right? There's no nefarious players out here. FTX, look at how much money they're throwing around. They got Tom Brady. They got all these people, right? It's going to be all okay. But in reality, like I said, when there's smoke, there's fire. Do you, in fact, trust the SEC and the IRS to have the forensic accounting capabilities to really dive into all of these million coins that Coinbase allegedly has and has to evaluate on a day-to-day basis, and more specifically, Bitcoin? Coinbase is custodied of 9 out of the 12 Bitcoin ETFs in the United States. None, in fact, have Anchorage Digital as a custodian. One has Gemini, and the others are self-custody. So Anchorage Digital is a new one that has popped out of nowhere and is now going to be potentially competing against Coinbase. Riddle me that, folks, because that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me when we have Coinbase as one of, if not the largest custodian. And there's been these rumors of them issuing paper Bitcoin. And, you know, look, as a great journalist, we're going to use Wikipedia here. All right. Don't rip me in the comments for doing this, but according to this Wikipedia page and according to a few other sites, just doing some simple math here, Coinbase is the world's largest custodian. I knew that already, but they said that they hold over 12% of all Bitcoin currently in existence. Now, that is approximately 2.4 billion Bitcoin, or 2.4 million Bitcoin, excuse me, not 2.4 billion. That potentially would be that with, the dollars amount, but 2.4 million Bitcoin in their single custodian, right? So of course they probably diversify and have it in different wallets, but that's a lot of Bitcoin to have in one single entity, leaving room for potential of the biggest hack of all time. Now, let's keep going on this, right? Why is BlackRock diversifying to, quote, avoid some risk, right? To risk management, so to speak, right? They're and doing this with essentially a new player in the market. Wouldn't you think this new player would add some sort of risk, right? Because they're not proven. They haven't been doing this for years on end like Coinbase has been doing. They are not the world's largest custodian, right? But hey, BlackRock is worried about this and they're looking to diversify. And Coinbase, all of they said is absolutely not. Brian Armstrong, Baldy Locks, has been saying, trust me, bro. Look, we've had rumors floating around in this, right? I mean, I know this is a tweet from quite some time, but it does get a lot of traction here where they're saying we had 58K without ETFs. Now they've come onto the scene, buy more Bitcoin than any single entity on earth. And the price basically doesn't move. I'm calling BS. Sorry, Coinbase is issuing paper Bitcoin, and I'm done pretending that they aren't, right? Because there's a lot of experts and others who have been weighing in on this because of the amount of volume that we see from these ETF buys that we simply just haven't seen in the past, right? And these ETF inflows for the past year have just been astronomical. We've seen Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy buy leaps and bounds, buy 500,000 coins in the time that they've been stacking. The ETF stacked a full Nakamoto. They got 1,000,000 coins in a year, folks. They got 1,000,000 coins and under management in a very short period of time. They were the fastest growing ETFs in history, and it hasn't even been relatively close. So, multiple experts have been weighing in on this. Are they issuing paper Bitcoin? Because they're the American's largest crypto exchange, and BlackRock, the world's premier asset managers, have found themselves rooted in a new conspiracy theory. Skeptics are spreading the unsubstantial rumors that Coinbase may not actually be buying the real Bitcoin, but instead issuing paper Bitcoin. They've issued far enough where Armstrong has waved off concerns, right? That's what I think is interesting. Like, if this wasn't even, if this had zero weight to it, why is Brian Armstrong replying to these things? You're a CEO of a publicly traded company. You don't need to be entertaining rumors on Twitter or X, the everything app now, saying, like, hey, trust me, bro, we're all good. Why is the CEO and somebody who is worth multiple millions be fighting Twitter trolls? Doesn't make sense. When there's smoke, there's fire, like I've said. All the ETF mints and burns we process ultimately and settle on chain. So they're potentially eating a lot of these fees. Obviously, they account for all of that, but still, they got new ammo when BlackRock filed an amendment in its ETF to registration that requires Coinbase to release Bitcoin to the asset manager within 12 hours of notice when customers buy shares. So this is a unique aspect that BlackRock implemented in there, right? So BlackRock is also, CYAN, covering your own ass, right? They've also got the in-kind ETF now, where if you deposit Bitcoin, you're going to have to get Bitcoin out. So how is Coinbase going to, to look at that, right? Like, we've got these custodians now playing a very dangerous game with all of this, where we're seeing the potential of this paper Bitcoin. And this Bloomberg analyst is also saying, hey, we're not going to say that this is FTX 2.0. This would be even bigger than FTX. We're just throwing where you're just throwing up an exchange out of nowhere. Some buffoon was running it at the Bahama penthouse. BlackRock's a serious company that has dozens of lawyers. They're not going to blow their well-earned reputation, let alone get sued by all those investors. To further debunk those rumors, he said that after speaking to BlackRock, he was able to confirm that the asset operates its own blockchain node and routinely verifies its Bitcoin balances. But why diversify then? If you know your wallet with Coinbase, why diversify? Why get out of this, right? Why add another layer of this, right? I think it is very peculiar that you're seeing them get away from all of this. And there's continuing articles, there's continuing rumors of this paper Bitcoin attack that seemingly could be 5 times of what FTX is because of just the magnitude, right? And then, we've got Brian Armstrong coming out and addressing all of these rumors in different areas, right? He's addressing all of these things and saying, hey, trust me, bro, we're perfectly fine. Don't worry about it, right? They debuted an offshore exchange as US relations cooled back in 2023. So we saw, when Coinbase was a little bit fearful, them move offshore as well, right? It's interesting because Coinbase has been in a big SEC battle. Obviously, that has been dropped fairly recently, but when there was issues, Coinbase ran overseas as well. So although in that Yahoo article they were saying, hey, this Coinbase is not FTX, it's not, some young kid slinging it around in a Bahamas penthouse, Coinbase still also ran over there. So I want you to be very tentative of holding your coins on Coinbase, right? I always try to promote self custody, and I always really look at great exchanges to be partnered with that promote self custody. Now, the legends over at Bitcoin Well are strictly non-custodial. So this is why I've partnered with them, because the things like Coinbase, they absolutely make me fearful for what is going on. This could be potentially the biggest Bitcoin attack that we could ever see, right? 9 out of the 12 Bitcoin ETFs are custodied with Coinbase. If they're issuing that paper coin or paper Bitcoin, imagine the fallout that we'll see. The FTX fallout, the COVID fallout, that was nothing. That would be pennies on the dollar to this. So if you go to bitcoinwell.com/green candle, you will see that you can sign up here. You can enter in your email. And then every time you buy Bitcoin, you will get potentially, or you will get wishing well tokens. And then you could potentially win 1 million sats. So maybe if there's some more people, some more activity in the chat, I'll start giving away some sats later on in this video, because it seems like there's 200 of you in here, but nobody's super active in the chat. I know we got my man Buddy Mac in here saying it's got to be manipulated. Who would sell knowing the US will start buying soon? Amen to that. It doesn't make any sense. Same thing with holding your Bitcoin on an exchange. Does not make any sense. So that's why on top of Bitcoin Well, I've partnered with Bitbox. You can go to bitbox.swiss/green candle, get the Bitbox O2. I highly recommend getting the Bitcoin only edition. Get that hardware wallet for you. They've got your punch plates in there too, where they've got a steel wallet, and then they've got the hammer and everything else. You can use promo code green candle, get 5% off your entire order. They're a great company. They haven't took any VC funding or anything along those lines, so they're strictly operating on a Bitcoin standard. So that's why I love partnering with these companies and help shedding some light on some of these great projects, because we've got some crazy big money now coming into Bitcoin, and it seems so fishy. Right? It seems so fishy that we're seeing BlackRock quote diversify into a fund that has really no footprint of any ETF holding or any ETF here in the United States, but BlackRock, the most trusted asset manager. Look, say what you want about Larry Fink, but there's a reason BlackRock's the largest asset manager on the planet. They're very trusted by their constituents. They're very trusted by their, investors. Larry Fink, great salesman. He's got a very powerful voice. Regardless, all these actions that they take, everybody knows that at the end of the day, these actions that Larry Fink does hold a lot of weight. Let's be completely honest here. What he says, him buying Bitcoin, or being now bullish on Bitcoin. He's saying all these things because he knows it'll pump his own bags. He knows that it'll send people, hey, if I say Bitcoin's going to $1 million, you can speculate on the asset. If I say that, people are going to go buy up that ETF, right? If you continue to say these things, but they are diversifying out of Coinbase, right? There's been rumors on rumors on rumors of Coinbase issuing paper Bitcoin. Coinbase currently has 12% of that Bitcoin supply under its management, right? There's been Fidelity who holds their own keys. They custody some coins for some people. I know it's rumored that MicroStrategy, or now Strategy, has some coins in Coinbase as well as Fidelity. So it seems like the two custodians are really in the United States are Coinbase, Fidelity, and then the third I've heard is Gemini, that has custodian, or that has some custody experience. So BlackRock, knowing this, knowing that they have Fidelity, knowing that they also have Gemini with the Winklevoss twins, decides to unleash $45 billion worth of Bitcoin in their iShares trust to Anchorage Digital. Seems a little fishy, just like you guys are saying in the chat here, that it's crazy that people are deciding to sell right at this moment. And I agree with you 100%. Why are you looking to sell? What the hell is going on here? Or is it that they aren't really buying? Is it this paper Bitcoin attack actually coming to fruition? And Larry Fink is worried about that. He sees the writing on the wall with everything here. Is this something that could actually come to light? Look, like I said, this is why I always try to promote self-custody for you. It's not that difficult. You know, the guys at Bitcoin Well, they force you into it by strictly having non-custodial. They have a great OTC desk if you're looking to make large purchases, 50K or more. But I mean, at the end of the day, these exchanges, their model is strictly to, get that spread every time you buy Bitcoin. Coinbase has the biggest spread. They need to encourage you to just buy, be a degen, be a degen, be a degen. And, at the end of the day, they don't necessarily have your best interest in mind. So that's why these things, I'm just not a Coinbase fan in general. And so when I see fishy things like BlackRock, look, I don't trust Larry Fink at all, right? I don't trust him at all. But when I do see this, it raises some eyebrows. When you have the world's largest asset manager on the planet say, hey, we need to diversify to get away from strictly just Coinbase, it raises my eyebrows. It gets my spidey senses tingling here a little bit, right? So I'm just here to try to raise some awareness for you guys. I've got a great podcast that I dropped here with Adam O'Brien, CEO of Bitcoin Well. So go ahead and check that out if you guys haven't already. My man, All Nighter Hider, not in the chat today, but he always says, smoke the like Cheech and Chong. Hit the subscribe button. Go check out this great podcast with Adam O'Brien. And tell a friend to tell a friend. Subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you guys come and join the chat. We've got 250 of you watching here. So next time, be a little bit more active in the chat, and I will give you guys some Bitcoin on the next time. But thank you guys all for tuning in, and I will see you guys probably tomorrow.